Hare Krishna, thank you very much for joining me. We're just going to give a couple of minutes to see if anyone else is joining, and then we'll just begin. So we begin the session of Sri Harinam Cintamani in continuation from last Thursday. And we would first begin by summarizing the previous week, and then we'll get into the day's topic. So today's date is the 16th of March, 2015. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikeshendriyatmane Nama Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibrutatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Nama Nama Hiranyaviryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. So let's begin by summarizing the previous week. The previous week was focused on distinguishing the three different types of sukriti. We spoke of karma unmukhi sukriti, sukriti that is obtained by those who engage in karma kanda. Then we spoke of jnana unmukhi sukriti, sukriti or credits attained by those who engage in jnana kanda. And then we spoke of bhakti unmukha sukriti, which is far superior to the other two because the results of bhakti unmukha sukriti is pure devotional service, while the first, which is karma unmukha sukriti and jnana, do not give us pure devotional service, but give us higher levels of, or grant higher levels of material enjoyment initially, and then pave the way for the soul to participate in liberation. Liberation, which is of the quality of living on the same planet as the Lord, Salokya, right? In other cases, it is simply liberation into Brahman if someone does not have a personal conception of the Lord. And we also distinguish the three by saying that Ananda is available for those who engage their senses. We gave the example of Bhoga being offered in a temple where if one is occasionally visiting, they are a part of the spiritual nature of the temple atmosphere. And they get to know that Bhoga is being offered at a certain time. And then there is those who have passed by the kitchen while the Bhoga was being prepared and are aware of the quality of the Bhoga. They're aware of the specific dishes. They may know what kind of dal is prepared or what kind of puris, and they would know the sabji and so on and so forth. They would know all the details because they're passed by the kitchen, so they have jnana. And then we also have those who are engaging in the process of assisting in the preparation of the Bhoga. They are assisting in the offering of the Bhoga, such as the Pujari. Now, real Ananda is available in the last case because they are engaging their senses and they are engaging all their limbs in the service of the Lord. While in the first case, they experience knowledge, Sat. They experience truth, which is Sat, where they know that Bhoga is being offered, but they do not know anything else, right? They have some inference, but they do not know anything else. It smells like Bhoga is being offered, the screen is being pulled shut, and all of this requires that, maybe Bhoga is being offered. But beyond Sat, there is Chit, where there is very specific knowledge on what kind of Bhoga is being offered. And then there is Ananda for those who actually participate in the process of preparing and offering the dishes to the Supreme Lord. Now, Sat, Chit, and Ananda, we distinguish that the first category is that of the Jnani who experiences liberation. So he understands that the material world and material creation is false. He understands that the spiritual creation or spirituality, which is the three quarters of the total existence, is true. So he understands what is false and what is true. And that is like the person who is just in the temple, who knows that Bhoga is being offered. He knows that, okay, I'm in a spiritual atmosphere, and then outside there is the material world. Here it's more peaceful. Bhoga is being offered. He knows. That's it. Sat. He experiences truth. And then there is the person who knows more, and there is a Chit Vaibhava where he understands the qualities of the Lord as much as the person who participates and he walks by and he sees things and he has knowledge. He can be compared to a yogi because he gets to visualize the Paramatma. There is Paramatma realization for the yogi. But then the best part is the Bhakta who focuses on actually offering service using his limbs. And that is considered to be far superior. So we spoke of that. And then we spoke of the fact that there are desirers of wealth. There are desirers of a healthy existence. And there are desirers who are inquisitive. They're simply inquisitive. And then there are those who want to gain knowledge of the absolute. They want to know and understand what is absolute and what is not. Amongst the four, all of them are dear to Krishna because they approach him. Krishna considers them magnanimous. They are not going to the demigods, they are approaching him. So he does consider them magnanimous. But amongst those, the first three have material aspirations, wealth, health, and even inquisitiveness. The last one has an aspiration which is beyond the material sky. He wants to know what is beyond the material sky. So he is considered to be slightly superior. But Srila Rupa Goswami rejects all of this with his verse defining pure bhakti. So we wanted to establish in the previous session as to what we should be focusing on. So Srila Rupa Goswami defines pure bhakti by the verse Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavratam Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So Uttama Bhakti, or the superior bhakti or pure devotional service, is defined as that which is free from motives for gain, material gain, karma kanda, jnana karmadi anavratam, or for knowledge, which is in reality liberation, mukti. That which is free from bhukti and mukti, or motives of bhukti and mukti, is not, is considered pure devotional service. And one other quality is that it has to be favorable. Because even the demons like Kamsa, Shishupala, Ravana, they were constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord, but they were unfavorable. They were pratikul. They were not anukul. So it has to be anukulyena Krishna anushilanam. They have to anukulyena. They have to follow Krishna, and that is Bhakti Uttama. They want to serve Krishna. Right? So we looked at all of these in the previous week to have an understanding and distinguish what is pure devotional service, which is the goal which is being discussed in the Sri Harinam Cintamani. Having said that, what we would be doing this week is to cover a few more dialogues or the aspects of the conversation between Sriman Mahaprabhu and Srila Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya or the Acharya of the holy names. So the first aspect that we want to cover is that Srila Haridas Thakur starts talking about the fact that the holy names reveal Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela of the Supreme Lord. So now, what we do want to understand is that the name Nama, Rupa, form, Guna, qualities, Leela, pastimes of the Supreme Lord, all these are equal. All of them are completely spiritual. Right? That is the first understanding that we have to obtain, is that the holy names are non-different from the Rupa, form of the Lord, Guna, qualities, and the Leela. The holy name is a seed. It is like a seed. You sow a seed on fertile soil, soil that is fertile, and that particular seed, after it is being watered through the process of sadhana and kripa, slowly starts growing. The Bhakti Lata Bija starts growing because it is like a seed. Nama is like a seed. And through that name, the holy name, one gets to know the form of the Lord. How does he look? From the holy name come guna, the qualities of the Lord, which is even more intimate than the form, right? And then we also get to know his very specific pastimes. So the holy name has the guna, nama, and rupa, the rupa, guna, and lila. All three are fully immersed and available in the holy name. So the holy name is original. So we need to contrast the spiritual nature of the holy name from our own mundane holy name, mundane names, I'm sorry. So when we give ourselves a name, if someone were to call upon our name, we cannot become available. But if we call upon Krishna's name with very good sincerity and we call upon it with offenselessly, Krishna appears into the atmosphere. Whenever we call upon Krishna's name, Krishna appears into the atmosphere, in contrast to someone calling upon our name. If someone calls upon our name, we don't appear there. They could have a discussion about us and we are not there. Very simple. So that is the difference between what is mundane and what is spiritual, is that the name contains the rupa, contains the guna, and it contains the lila. While our name, it does not do so. In the sense, someone remembers us, we don't really manifest physically in that spot, but Krishna does. That's the fundamental difference between what is material and what is spiritual. What else does it mean when we talk about nama, rupa, guna, and lila? What does it mean? It also means that when we begin chanting the holy names and we go past the purificatory stages of specifically anartha nivritti, where all the anarthas are being taken away, and initially the big anarthas are taken away, slowly, steadily, our own nama in the spiritual sky, we have a very specific name. The name that we have here and the body that we have here, the form, qualities, so on and so forth, all of it is very temporary. We have a permanent name. We have a form. We have certain qualities. And we also engage in very specific service. And all of this is being revealed as we chant the holy names. And as this is being revealed, we also get to know very specifically as to how we fit in into Krishna's service. So that is the beauty of calling upon the holy names, because the sadhana and the sadhya, the goal, are the same. Because the holy name contains the form, it contains the guna, rupa, everything, and the lila. All of this is contained within the holy name. As a consequence, when we call upon the holy name, it reveals our nature. It reveals that we have an eternal name. We have a very specific address in the spiritual sky, in Braja. Very specific. Right? It reveals who our parents are. There are spiritual parents in the village of Braja. It reveals who we are in terms of our name, our parents. It reveals our qualities, and it also reveals the specific leela of the divine couple that we participate in. All this information is available within the holy names. So it reveals everything in the context of wanting us to come closer and for us to be able to engage in the service of the Lord. This is actual process of self-realization, where one who does not know who they are cannot know others. In what manner will we identify? How can someone with amnesia go around saying that they're related to someone? How can they say that, oh, this is my wife, this is my son, daughter, so on and so forth? We have amnesia, so how would we identify the Lord? So first, our amnesia is cleared. So there are personalities in the spiritual sky who are very specifically, assigned, or rather, who are close to us. They take care of us. They view us. As the pure name reveals itself, we get to know more. So practically, with just the chanting of the holy names, one goes from someone who is extraordinarily sinful to someone who is completely knowledgeable of their spiritual nature. This is a wide spectrum, and it is all available so easily just with the original holy name. The nama is original because the nama is the origin of rupa. It is the origin of guna. It is the origin of lila. Once when some calls upon Krishna's name, everything else comes and it follows along, and it also reveals our spiritual nature. It's a very big relief in the sense that our own qualities that we experience here in the material sky or in the material world are temporary. If we have bad qualities, be very happy that it is temporary. If we have a body which is deteriorating and which is not very comfortable to be in, be happy that it is temporary. If you see bad qualities in others around you, be happy that even that is temporary. Okay, do not focus so much on it. Okay, so it's such a big relief that everything about who we are in the material sky is temporary. It is temporary, and we need to focus on what is permanent. So we have a permanent address, we have a permanent name, we have a permanent spiritual body that is eternal. We have a name that is eternal. We have an age that is eternal. We don't gray out there. If some of you are concerned about graying, we don't have to worry about a decaying, deteriorating body because it's going to remain constant. The Leela is there, and it is always filled with Ananda. There is no duality. It is Ananda. Right? It is Ananda. That is the nature of the spiritual sky. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. It is eternal, Sat. It is Chit, filled with knowledge. There is no ignorance. You do not operate in ignorance. And it is filled with Ananda. The holy name has the ability to reveal our eternal address, our name, our specific spiritual form. And as we make progress, it also reveals the very specific service that we engage in for the divine couple. And then, if there is even greater progress and one attains the greatest gift one can ever imagine of Krishna Prema, then one gets to engage in that specific Leela. All of this is available in the holy name. One does not have to endeavor anywhere else. In other words, anything and everything that we do, be it deity worship, be it reading, be it serving or doing anything and everything has to be with the focus of being able to chant the pure name. That should be a fundamental focus. That is the Yuga Dharma. And the beauty about this Yuga Dharma is that you do not need to be a Shrutidar. In Treta Yuga, you had to know and you had to be extraordinarily Brahmanical, or you had to have the means to be able to engage in such qualities. Right? You had to be a king for someone to be able to employ a whole group of Brahmanas to engage in yagyas, because Treta Yuga, that was a process, elaborate rituals for the people to take off. And then there's deity worship in Dwapara. In Kali, there's just the quality of being able to chant, and which is so wonderful. It is extraordinary in terms of its opportunity. It is extraordinary in terms of the simplicity, right? I personally prefer chanting. I worship deities quite elaborately at times, and I offer, yagyas, fire sacrifices. But my preference is to chant. My preference is to chant because it is the Yuga Dharma and it is extraordinarily simple. It is extraordinarily simple. It is so very simple to execute the means that can reveal so much, that can liberate us. It can liberate us even if it is chanted offensively. Can you believe that? When one is chanting with offenses, it can grant all kinds of material opulences. If one is chanting and without offenses, but yet they are not chanting the pure name, it has the ability to grant liberation. The holy names have everything. Nija sarva shaktihi. And nama naminoho abhinnatvam. There is no difference between the holy names and Krishna, and that is being shared by Srila Haridas Thakur. He's very particular. He's saying that the holy name is original. From there you understand Rupa. From there you understand Guna. From there you understand Leela. So everything comes just from chanting the holy names. And our entire practice, our books, everything have been written to facilitate that particular activity of being able to chant. So if we cannot do our chanting properly, take it very seriously. Take apart your life, take apart your life, and start looking at it very closely to understand what is preventing us from giving 200% to this activity. 200%, I'm just wanting to emphasize how important it is. If we are not chanting, we are not a part of the Yuga Dharma. Be very careful. Be very careful in understanding what is the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma is to be delivered by chanting the holy names. Do not take this lightly, because everything else is going to manifest by pure chanting. Right? We are going to realize we are temporary, chanting. We are going to realize our own nature through chanting. We are going to realize the nature of Krishna, chanting. Imagine how exciting and how many milestones one can possibly have in engaging in the glorification of the holy names, and it is all being facilitated so easily. Something for us to remember, right? Now, we also want to understand tattva. This is again a topic which Srila Haridas Thakur brings up in conversation with Sriman Mahaprabhu. He wants to bring up tattva to distinguish Krishna amongst others. Why Krishna? We have to understand, because this is a question that comes up quite often when you meet people and they ask the question, why not Sri Rama? Why not, Lord Shiva? Why not Sri Brahma? Why not, the other deity forms? What is so special about Krishna? So Srila Haridas Thakur starts distinguishing. He starts talking about the number of qualities that Krishna has. Krishna has 4 qualities which no one else has. In a total number of 64 qualities, Krishna has all 64 in full. Lord Narayan has 60. Sri Ramachandra, Lord Rama, Sri Narasimha, Sri Varaha, they all belong to the category. They all have 60. They're very special. Right? And then Lord Shiva has 55 in full. Lord Brahma has 50 qualities out of the 64 that Krishna has in full. We as Jiva have a minute, a minuscule, insignificant amount of the 50 qualities of Sri Brahma. Lord Brahma has 50 qualities in full. We have a minuscule amount. Now, what are the 4 qualities that distinguish Krishna from the others? What is it which is so special about Krishna from the others? So Krishna, the first quality that is so wonderful is that he is a performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes. Childhood pastimes in Vrindavan. No other incarnation can you see the childhood pastimes which are so wonderful and which are so exciting to see in Krishna Leela, in Vrindavan, in Braja Leela. It is very unique. And he is Krishna. He attracts the entire creation. His power to attract is unparalleled. If he plays on his flute, we hear that all the cows, they stop grazing wherever they are and then come running. But also the residents of Vraja come running. And we are also being attracted, even though we cannot perceive it fully. When one becomes purified and one's senses become purified and they attain their spiritual body, they are able to hear the flute. They are able to hear the ankle bells of Krishna. So when he plays the flute, everybody is attracted. There's no other incarnation who plays the flute. That is one extra quality, and it is extraordinary. Right. And it is also said that he is surrounded by devotees who are extraordinary in their ability to love Godhead. The intensity of love that is found in amongst the residents of Vraja, of Vrindavan, is unparalleled. You cannot find that in Dwaraka. You cannot find that in Ayodhya, because there will be mixtures of opulence which is associated with those avatars or those manifestations of the Supreme Lord. In Vrindavan, it is 101% sweetness. There is no, the opulence, the so-called Aishwarya, is overpowered by sweetness in Vrindavan. And the devotees in Vrindavan who surround the Lord, their qualities are unparalleled. So it is very amazing to see that the Lord's 64 qualities include the glorification of his devotees, or the speciality of the devotees of Vrindavan are included as a part of the 64 qualities of Krishna. No one else has devotees like Krishna, which is pretty amazing to say that he has one extra quality compared to the other avatars. And then his beauty. His beauty is unparalleled. His beauty is unparalleled. The Srimad Bhagavatam has an extraordinary description of the same. Right? They talk about why Krishna is supreme. That is what Srila Vyasadeva established right in the beginning. And this verse here by Srila Haridas Thakur also establishes that Krishna is special. He is not Shiva. He is not Lord Narayan. He is not Lord Shiva. He is not Lord Brahma. Krishna is special because he has 64 qualities. And then further on, Srila Haridas Thakur begins a discussion with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on the primary and the secondary nature of Krishna's names. The primary names is Govinda, is a primary name. Because the moment you hear the name, there is Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela. Everything comes forth. Everything comes forth the moment you hear the name Govinda. It's very specific. The moment you say Gopala, everything comes forth from that particular name, right? So the names of Narayan are primary. The names of Lord Narasimha are primary. These are all primary names of the Supreme Lord. These are considered to be primary names. And then there are secondary names. The secondary names are associated with function. So for example, if he is the creator, right? Shrishti Karta, he is the creator, right? That's a secondary name. Brahman is a feature. Brahman is a feature. It is simply an attribute of the Supreme Lord because it does not have Rupa. There is no Rupa in Brahman. There is no Leela in Brahman. What to say of anything else, in the sense that there's absolutely nothing other than being an attribute. It's a spiritual attribute. So those are secondary names, and the primary names are that from which we can immediately derive the guna, the qualities, and we can also go directly into Leela. These are primary names. Okay. Now I want to also speak a little bit to end today's session and go into the Q&A. I wanted to talk a little bit about the name Cintamani. Cintamani is a wish-fulfilling gem or a stone. If you were to go into a description, it is a stone that has the ability to grant any desire of those who hold on to it. For those who hold on to it, it grants all desires. So once there was a Brahmana who was a very, very sincere worshipper of Lord Shiva, very sincere. And at the end of his worship, Lord Shiva became very pleased and wanted to grant the Brahmana's desires. So Lord Shiva asked him as to what would he like, and the Brahmana said, please grant me whatever you think is most valuable for me. He was very sincere. He was very sincere. Nishkapata, simple. There was no kapata. There was no such thing as kapatya or wanting to cheat. He was very sincere. He told the Lord, his worshipable deity, Lord Shiva, when he appeared, saying, you choose a particular boon that will be of great help to me. Okay? Because he had such confidence in his Ishtadev, Lord Shiva, that he said, you choose, you direct me. So Lord Shiva said, you go and meet Sri Sanatan Goswami. He is an extraordinarily accomplished chanter of the holy names. He is a wonderful devotee. of Lord Chaitanya. So you go and meet him in Vrindavan and you ask him for a very special stone, which is the Cintamani stone. And that stone would grant all your desires. So he has that stone. Now, this Brahmana became quite excited because this was very specific information. You go here, a place, you meet such and such person, and you ask for a very specific object which they have in their possession. And then that object, once you have it, will grant you everything else. So he went over to Vrindavan and met Srila Sanatan Goswami. And he told him that my Ishtadevata, Lord Shiva, has sent me. He says that you have the Cintamani stone. And he says that you possess a stone which is capable of granting all desires. So can you give me that stone? So Sri Sanatan Goswami understood that the person was very sincere. He immediately said, yes, it's available. He said, just go behind my hut, my bhajan kutir. Go behind my bhajan kutir, and there's a rubbish dump, or a place where we put leftover things or things that we don't use quite often. You will find that stone in the rubbish dump right there behind my kutir. So the Brahmana was quite amazed. So he went behind the bhajan kutir and he was able to distinguish and he was able to see by the description provided by Sanatan Goswami, and he was able to get the specific stone into his hands. He took the stone, he was jubilant, he paid obeisances to Sri Sanatan Goswami, thanked him, and then walked away. As he was walking away, he walked a little distance. Since he was very sincere, the super soul wanted to guide him. We spoke earlier that there is karma and there's desire. One has karma, and he is being put into a certain body, he is being put into a certain circumstances. But if the desires are such that he wants to know the truth, Krishna takes him out of his karmic situation and puts him on the path which is required. So this person was extraordinarily sincere, and the super soul recognized that he needed help. So he took this Cintamani gem, and then as he was walking on the path away from the bhajan kutir of Sri Sanatan Goswami, he suddenly woke up and he said, if this is so precious, Cintamani, and he has put it in the rubbish dump, what else must he have which must be more precious? So he was very curious. So he turned around and he said, let me go back and ask him. He went back to Srila Sanatan Goswami and said, this is supposed to be so precious that my Ishtadev, Shiva Bhagwan, he sent me here and you sent me to the rubbish dump to pick this up. If this is being discarded by you in the rubbish dump, what do you have inside the bhajan kutir? What do you have? What is it which you have which can be so precious that you reject this? At that point, Sri Sanatan Goswami recognized that this person is very sincere. What did he do? He initiated him in Harinama. He gave him the holy names because it is Cintamani. It is Cintamani. The Harinama is Cintamani because it reveals the Cintamani Dhamma. It reveals Vrindavan. It reveals Krishna. It reveals our qualities. It reveals all the details that we need for us to be able to make progress. It is called Cintamani because everything is contained within the holy name. Okay? It is a wish-fulfilling tree. It is Kalpavriksha. Right? It is Cintamani Dhamma. The whole of Vrindavan, the whole pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, his associates, everything is contained within the holy names. This is the Sandhini potency of Balaram in one sense. It is the existential potency. Everything is contained within the holy names. Right? Everything is contained. So that is the beauty of being able to chant and be a part of a process that is so powerful that you don't need to do anything else. It is so simple that you really don't need anything more than being able to call upon the holy names. You do not need to even be literate. You just need to be able to know how to pronounce. A complete illiterate can also take this up. So there's absolutely no barrier of either being born in a certain caste, being born in a certain country, being born as, in a particular gender, or being of any age. Sri Mahaprabhu even proved that the animals can chant because they are so simple-minded that if there's enough potency in the chanting of the holy names, we could even make the animals chant. Mahaprabhu proved that. Right? When he passed through the Jarikanda forest, he made all the animals chant. Why? Because his potency was such that he completely removed the ignorance that is permanently seated, and the ignorance that is given to animals due to being in their conditioned nature, being in a certain body. What to say of being human? What to say of being connected to a process? What to say of being connected to such a powerful parampara by someone as powerful as Srila Prabhupada and as special as Srila Prabhupada? Who could claim that they are connected to the Senapati Bhakta, someone who is so dear to Lord Chaitanya that he had the responsibility of spreading the mission throughout the world? Who can make that claim? Isn't Prabhupada very special? Yes, he is special. Let us not be shy. Let us not be shy in understanding that Srila Prabhupada is most special. Being just connected to him, why is it that we should have any difficulty whatsoever in just being able to do this? And how simple is this process of just being able to call upon the holy names? No qualifications, nothing required, just calling upon the holy names. It is going to remove our inabilities. Offensive chanting is going to grant material desires, which is actually a curse. It is a curse to come this far and just be granted material desires. So offensive chanting is a curse. Offenseless chanting, but not pure chanting, can grant liberation. And pure chanting reveals everything, where being in this particular body, which is extraordinarily defective and it is breaking apart each moment, we still have the ability, if we reach Krishna Prema, to participate in the Lord's pastimes. How amazing. Is there anything which anybody can bring forth which is more superior or can do even what this process can do? There isn't. This is the simplest. When you talk simple, this is the simplest. So why should there be any difficulty, any hesitation in any of us for us to be able to ensure that everything else is adjusted and we are able to take on the proper chanting of the holy names? Build our lives around being able to chant. Build our lives being around being able to chant. That should be a goal. If you have a long-term goal, set it up in such a way that it is going to lessen our distraction. It is going to lessen the burden that we carry. It is going to reduce the burden of our own children. Plan in such a manner so that they can chant and they don't have to go through the same problems that we do. That is real planning of the future. Not that we continue furthering and increasing the burden that we carry. We have to ensure that we make it easy. So one last thing before we go on is that there were a couple of questions that came in at the very end of the previous session. And those questions I just want to touch upon very briefly, and then I'll take on more questions. If there are more questions, please submit them. I can see one question from Akhilesh Prabhu. I'm going to get to you in a minute. There was a question from Krishna Karuna Prabhu in the previous session, where I think we ended the session a little earlier. So in the previous session, Krishna Karuna Prabhu wanted to know, why do you say that there is no such thing as health or no such thing as wealth in this world? And the answer is that the moment we are conceived, conception is a process called nisheda in Sanskrit. When the fetus is conceived and it is impacted on the wall of the womb of the mother, at that very moment, the specific body part of the living entity that is going to fail and cause death is also recorded. There is already determined as to how that person, when they are born, and this is 9 months before birth or whatever, it is already decided as to how they will be born and what kind of body part will fail, which is going to cause their death. And it's something like 70 years or 80 years, depending on what the longevity of the individual is. It can cause such. Right? So, in that sense, the moment we are born, we are unhealthy. We are heading towards destruction. It is just a matter of time. In some cases, it is sooner. In some cases, it is a little longer. It's all relative. But the fact remains that there's a time bomb which is within us, which is going to destroy us at some point in time, and that destruction has already begun. This is not the case in the higher planetary systems. So in that sense, we are all very unhealthy people, and some of us are relatively more healthy amongst the unhealthy, right? So this is like saying that someone is sick, they are less sick than the more sick in the same hospital. So in that sense, aspiring for great and good health does not make sense. So whoever aspires for it and does yoga in terms of, I'm talking about yoga in terms of Ashtanga yoga. I'm not talking about Hatha yoga, which is done for keeping us, fit. I'm talking about the process of attaining good health. We spoke of it in Bhagavad Gita 7.16 that there are those who worship Krishna for good health. They will get a good body which will not be unhealthy by getting a body in a higher planet like Swarga, wherever. And then comes the topic of wealth. The topic of wealth is also something that we need to understand. If you make a very good comparison, or if you do some simple math, you will notice that the buying power of our salaries of a decade back, 10 years back, and now has vastly deteriorated. In other words, if you make a comparison, we will find that we are making the same kind of money that we made 10 years back. If you really want to talk about wealth, it should be something that does not deteriorate with time. We don't want to really talk about wealth that keeps disappearing each year as we live on this planet. That by the time we are 60, whatever we made at the age of 45 and 50 is going to be worth far less. That is not real wealth. So it's not a good aspiration to have for anyone aspiring for wealth and health. That was the purpose of my saying that there is no such thing as good health or wealth on this planet. It's a planet that is designed to destruct. How can we expect anything wonderful? Now, there was another question by Ratnakar Prabhu on whether Jnana Unmukha Sukriti and Karma Unmukha Sukriti can contribute to Agyata Sukriti. The possibilities are there because we can get exposed to certain environments where we might get an opportunity to serve. And that in turn, in a few lifetimes, may lead us into devotional service. So in one sense, it takes many, many lifetimes to even get an opportunity to engage in this so-called Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti or Agyata Sukriti. It is not an ordinary situation. It's a very difficult process to even attain the process of being able to engage in Agyata Sukriti, to answer that question. Let's take today's questions. So today's questions are... Okay. It's from Akhilesh Prabhu. Prabhuji, knowing the power and qualities of Harinam, how do we curtail our mind from asking for material desires? It is a gradual process of being able to replace our material desires with higher levels of participation. Param Drishtva Nivartate. We constantly look for a higher principle in our activities. Start with eating. Seva unmukehi jihvadav. Seva unmukehi jihvadav. Where you start your seva with the process of tasting prasadam. Because with a purified tongue, the holy names will dance. If we add things to our tongue which are not connected to Krishna, that in itself is a liability to start with. So, how do we curtail the mind from asking for material desires? Start with the process of eating. Do not eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. Or at least start working on reducing it. Reduce it severely. Curtail it so that you are able to experience the sweetness of the holy names. Okay? So that's the first part of being able to cut out material desires. The other part would be able to see how we can engage the mind in higher principles. What is the higher principle? Fundamentally, all our desires can be bucketed into eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Spend some time and bucket your desires into one of these categories and see how you can eat, sleep, mate, defend for Krishna. Okay? I will answer this more elaborately in some other session, but for now, I've given you two answers. One is Sevun Mukehi Jihvadav, curtail the eating process. It's going to help immensely. The second part, bucket your desires into eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And then you will have some strategy for being able to eat, sleep, mate, defend better by involving Krishna. These are two answers. Let's look at the second one. There's also from Akhilesh Prabhu. He says, can you please elaborate on our name, relationship, address, etc. in Vraja? Does everyone belong to Vraja only, or some belong to other places such as well, such as Ayodhya? Hanumanji belongs to Ayodhya. If someone is a Rama Bhakta, and there can be Rama Bhaktas, there can be eternal devotees of Lord Rama. There's no doubt about it. Right? And such personalities, their address is in Ayodhya, undoubtedly. And their Leela is with Lord Ramachandra. Right? You can take the example of Sri Hanumanji, 100%. The answer is yes. Now, can you elaborate on a name, relationship, address, etc. in Braja? How can I elaborate? If you're asking me about the process, the fact I'm saying is that there is a very scientific process. Our acharyas have written quite extensively about this process of how things unfold with the chanting of the holy names. It is very specifically found in the writings of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the writings of other acharyas, but specifically Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's writings. He has elaborated on it. He has spoken about how the whole process unfolds. But the fundamental fact is that we focus in the mission of Lord Chaitanya in being able to improve the chanting process. We focus on improving our chanting, and then if we engage in the process of being able to preach, which is the mission of Lord Chaitanya, and it doesn't matter as to whether we preach by speaking or we preach by other means. Even someone is in the kitchen cooking prasadam for a preaching team, that is preaching. Distribution of books, so on and so forth, these are all more direct, but then everything is preaching, because that is what Srila Prabhupada's movement is all about. So if we assist in the process of preaching, and we assist very sincerely whilst holding on to the lotus feet of Sri Nama Prabhu, the holy names, our own eternal nature would be revealed in good time. In other words, there need not be any extraneous activity done at this time because we are sadhana bhaktas. We focus on our sadhana, we keep improving it. When the time comes, everything else will fall in place, just as much as when we entered into, we came in touch with the devotees, and then we started mixing with them, and then we found who inspires us as a guru, and then we took initiation, and then we took the first, we took the second, and then we further on, we keep moving. So these are different milestones, and all of these are very organic milestones in the sense that it is all arranged very organically. You don't have to work on it to get it arranged, in the sense that there need not be any external process which is required. If we keep doing what Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do, it automatically gets arranged. Everything else falls in place when the right time comes. And similarly, the name, relationship, address, etc., so on and so forth, which are related to our eternal nature, will also be revealed in good time when the time comes. Hope that answers your question. Right. Then let me select. This is from Vilas Magri Mataji. So, are chanting without offenses and pure chanting same? If not, what are the differences? Second question is Damodara a secondary name? I can answer the second one first. It is a primary name. Damodara is a primary name of the Supreme Lord. It is not a secondary name. Okay. Now, are chanting without offenses? Are chanting without offenses and pure chanting the same? Not necessarily. Chanting without offenses is a stage where one can say that you are still in the clearing stage, which is called namavas. It is still a clearing stage where during the process of offensive chanting is due to the fact that we have anarthas. And this anartha nivrti takes place and we reach a position of being fixed in our sadhana, being fixed at the lotus feet of Guru, which is Nishtha. And then Namaruchi and attachment comes later. But during all of these processes, the gross anarthas go away, but then we hold on to subtle anarthas. So there are subtle blocks that are still there until one reaches the position of bhava, which is the highest stage of pure devotion. Until then, one is chanting without offenses, but is still not chanting the pure name. So that's the difference. Hope that helps you. Sandeep Prabhu, and how do we know our eternal position, which can help us to meditate and progress in the same direction? I think I answered that question. If I have not, then maybe you need to reword it. How can I know what is my eternal position? Exactly, I think I answered it with both the questions, the previous two questions, hopefully. Otherwise, you can again write to me. Now, one more question from Sandeep Prabhu. How much importance of Guru Tattva in the life of his disciple to chant? As many examples of Bhagavatam reveals that Guru met the disciple and he got Param Gati. And without Guru Kripa, how can one progress and taste the mellow? Impossible to taste the mellow. Impossible to taste the mellow. But then one has to realize that he has already gotten Kripa. Srila Prabhupada is the Siksha Guru of everyone and he is making arrangements. And as a consequence, when one comes in touch with the movement and he comes in touch with the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, the books of Srila Prabhupada, and so on and so forth, everyone whom he is coming in touch with is by being inspired by Srila Prabhupada. So in that sense, he is receiving Guru Kripa, even though the formal connection with Srila Prabhupada through the initiation process has not taken place. So one is not left over. I can give you a particular story, which is pretty amazing, from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, or rather, one of these letter books. In the early days of New York, I think it was New York Yatra, there was a Bhakta John, and he used to visit the Yatra in New York when Srila Prabhupada was around, and apparently this devotee had certain challenges of the mind. He was not considered to be stable. He was not considered to be mentally stable. He had some challenges and he was coping with some emotional problems. So there was some dysfunctional behavior that was displayed by him, and but he used to visit, and Srila Prabhupada used to see him. So at one point, Srila Prabhupada went away from New York. He went on a world tour, or he went away to India. He was staying in India, and then he came back. When he came back, he asked the devotees, saying, I don't notice that devotee, that particular person who used to come, Bhakta John. And the devotees informed Srila Prabhupada, saying, he had emotional problems. Srila Prabhupada, unfortunately, he committed suicide a couple of months back. He left his body, he committed suicide. So the devotees told Srila Prabhupada this. The moment Srila Prabhupada heard this, and this was a person who was not a regular. I'm talking about the person who committed suicide. He was not a regular person. Srila Prabhupada did not know him very well. He was not known for steady behavior. He was a little difficult to comprehend. But the moment Srila Prabhupada heard that he had left his body, he immediately, the devotees who were with him, observed that he went into some kind of a trance. He was not on the planet at that point. Even though physically he was there, mentally he was not on the planet. He had just left the planet, Srila Prabhupada. So for almost a full minute, Srila Prabhupada was completely absorbed after hearing this. And then he came back to the present. He came back and was with the devotees. And then the devotees asked him, saying, Srila Prabhupada, the moment you heard that, you went into a trance, what is it which you were doing? Because those days, the devotees were very young. They did not know the achar, the prachar, the sadachar that is required to deal with Param Vaishnava, deal with the Paramahamsa like Srila Prabhupada, with the Guru. They didn't know how to do that. So they had a tendency to ask him, and then he used to be very patient. So he basically answered them. He said, I requested Krishna that boy who passed away and who died due to committing suicide, let him be born in a devotee family. I requested Krishna to send him to a devotee family. So I'm giving you this example to say that Bhakta John was not initiated. He was not considered to be regular. He was not considered to be mentally stable. But yet, Srila Prabhupada ensured that Krishna took care of him. So we are all under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. So yes, There is always Guru Kripa, and it has already been made available if you're chanting the holy names. The formal aspects of it, it will also happen when things are supposed to happen. It will happen in an organic manner. Have that aspiration, pray to Srila Prabhupada, everything else will fall in place. Well, let me answer Mother Kirti's question. I think I've answered Sandeep Prabhu's question. We get eternal place in the spiritual sky. So if we go to Navadvip Dham, that means we will never be able to enter Vrindavan Dham. There is really no difference between Navadvip and Vrindavan. There is no difference. There is no difference between Krishna Leela and Gaur Leela. There is no difference whatsoever. We are engaging in Prabhupada's mission, we are engaging in Gaur Leela. Once Gaur Leela is over and it's really time, we go back and we'll join Krishna Leela, or we'll be again sent to another Gaur Leela. And there is no difference between Gaur Leela and Krishna Leela. Okay? So is there a difference between Navadvip and Vrindavan? No, there isn't. There isn't any difference. Those who can see Krishna Leela in Navadvip. Those who can see Gaur Leela in Vrindavan. So there's no difference. I think I've answered the question. So let's see. I don't think there are any more questions. So we will stop here. I want to quickly summarize. We looked at a few things. We looked at the fact that there was Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. And we distinguished between Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela of Krishna versus Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela of mundane life. We understood that our own position here is so temporary that it is a very good thing, because we don't have to worry about anything that we are facing now to the extent that it becomes a chronic worry. We understand that everything is temporary. We also understand that the holy names is the original process. Everything originates from the holy names. Nama can give Rupa, can give Guna, can give Leela. Everything is contained within chanting of the holy names. And the process of chanting is the most simple and most effective process which has been given by Mahaprabhu, and there's so much help available. We also spoke of the fact that we are connected to such a special personality in Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is the most special personality in Mahaprabhu's Leela in the modern days. So we are connected to him, which is a matter of great privilege and great good fortune. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And we also spoke about the distinguishing factor of, why is Krishna supreme? We distinguished the number of qualities of Krishna versus Lord Narayan, versus Lord Shiva, versus Lord Brahma and Jiva. We also spoke of primary and secondary names. And we finally also touched upon the fact that we have been given a process which is so potent that there really can be no excuse, and our whole life has to be built around being able to move forward and improvise this process. I think I answered this question. Okay, there's one more question from Mother Kirti. I was not able to post question on the forum of Sandini. I don't know whether this problem is faced by me only. My question was why Lord Shiva wears snakes around his neck and smears ashes all over his body. Yeah, I will just want to remark on how the question answer can be done. I'm working on the forum aspect of Sandini. There are some technical issues which I have to overcome. So I'm trying to see as to how to fix it. And once we fix it, the forum will be made available. I'm also trying to see if we can start a separate group in Facebook, which would be called Sandini, which would allow us simply to focus on Q&A. And that Q&A can also be a part of the website. And we can also focus on improvising the forum, both of these. I will reach out to some of you for help on getting this done, but that's a work in progress. So it's just not you. There was someone else who faced the same problem. Okay. So to answer your question on Lord Shiva, I'm going to take it separately, Mother Kirtida, because it's a focused topic, and I would need to spend more time on describing why. I can't just answer that, in terms of technical details. I just have to tell you also why. So I will take it up some other time. but I will remember this. The moment we set everything up, you can kindly repost this question and I will take it up then. Thank you. And let us see, there's one question from Mother Vilas Manjari. Even in the spiritual world, is there a progressive stage, like, for example, from servitude to friendship? In the eternal spiritual sky, it is said that it is not so. Everything is eternal. That is what we read about, that people who have a specific rasa move towards that particular rasa permanently. But there have been quite a few changes that occur while devotees practice on in Gaur Leela. For instance, when we chant the holy names, there might be an aspiration to engage in a certain kind of relationship with Krishna. But sometimes those aspirations can be replaced by something else. That has occurred. But in the spiritual sky, it is said that the relationships are quite eternal. Someone who is a friend of Krishna is very satisfied being a friend. Someone who is a parent is very satisfied being a parent. Someone who is a dasya is very satisfied being a das. So there's complete satisfaction, there's ananda, because it's the eternal nature. But while we practice here, there can be changes over a period of time. So I think I have done, it's almost a full hour, so I'm going to stop right here. If there are further questions, feel free to write to me on Facebook or write to me via email, and we'll get the forum ready so that we can serve you better. So thank you so much for joining. You are joining inspires me. I got to work hard to ensure that I'm up and then I'm able to speak. So you're also helping me a lot in making some progress. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.